The glass door of the Perch Cafe swung open with such force that Elena Hartley's head snapped up from her phone, hope flaring in her chest like a match in the dark. But it wasn't him. Instead, two identical little girls with dark braids and enormous blue eyes marched straight toward her table with the kind of determination that belonged to generals, not 7-year-olds. Behind them, a mountain of a man in a black suit followed, one hand pressed to an earpiece, the other hovering near his jacket in a way that made Elena's stomach drop.
Excuse me, miss.
Are you Elena? Elena Hartley? The one who takes pictures of wolves? The bolder twin spoke first, her accent carrying the faintest Eastern European lilt that turned her words into something both foreign and familiar. Elena's mouth opened, then closed. She'd been sitting in this cafe for 73 minutes, watching couples share desserts and friends laugh over lattes while her untouched coffee grew cold and her hope grew colder. She'd checked her phone 42 times. She'd reapplied her lipstick twice. She'd convinced herself that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. That maybe her college roommate had finally set her up with someone decent. That maybe she wouldn't spend another Friday night alone in her apartment, editing photos of landscapes because photographing people hurt too much after learning that people leave. Yes. I'm Elena. Who are you? Her voice came out smaller than she intended, confusion and something else, something that felt dangerously like relief, mixing in her chest. We're Nadia and Svetlana Volkov, the second girl said, quieter but no less intense. Our papa is supposed to be here, but he had an emergency. Bad men did something very bad to his business, and papa had to handle it personally. The massive man stepped forward, and Elena noticed the scar cutting through his left eyebrow, the way his eyes scanned the cafe, like he was cataloging exits and threats. Miss Hartley, I apologize for the unorthodox situation. My name is Yuri Petrov. I work for Dimitri Volkov. He was unavoidably detained and asked if perhaps you might be willing to reschedule. We came instead. Nadia interrupted, sliding into the chair across from Elena without invitation, her sister following suit. So you wouldn't be alone. So you wouldn't think Papa doesn't want to meet you. Because he does. He looked at your picture for a very long time and said you have kind eyes, and Papa never says things like that. Before we go any further, we need to know something. Drop a comment right now telling us where in the world you're watching from. Are you in New York? London? Tokyo? A small town we've never heard of? We love seeing how far these stories travel, how love and hope connect us across oceans and time zones. And if you've ever been stood up, if you've ever felt like giving up on love, if you've ever had your faith restored by the most unexpected people, hit that subscribe button. Because what happens next in Elena's story might just restore yours too. Elena stared at these two children who had somehow hijacked her disaster of a blind date and turned it into something else entirely. Nadia was already signaling the waitress, with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. 3 hot chocolates, please. With extra whipped cream. And those little chocolate shavings if you have them. Papa says presentation matters. Girls, you shouldn't, Yuri began, but Svetlana, the quieter twin, turned those enormous blue eyes on him with a look that could melt steel. Uncle Yuri, we practiced this.
Remember?
You said we could come if we promised to be polite and not mention the thing about the warehouse. Lana, Nadia hissed, and the two girls exchanged a rapid-fire conversation in what sounded like Russian, their words tumbling over each other in a language Elena didn't understand but recognized as the private dialect of twins, that secret communication that excluded the rest of the world. Elena should leave. Every instinct she developed after 2 years of guarding her heart told her to stand up, smile politely, and exit this increasingly bizarre situation. But something held her in place. Maybe it was the way Svetlana's small hand had crept across the table toward hers, Not quite touching, but close enough to feel the warmth. Maybe it was the desperate hope in Nadia's eyes when she looked up from her whispered argument with her sister. Or maybe it was just that Elena was so tired of running from anything that felt real. "Why don't you tell me about your papa?" Elena heard herself say, and the twins' faces transformed like someone had switched on lights behind their eyes. Nadia pulled out a phone, expensive and clearly monitored given the restrictions she had to navigate, and showed Elena a photograph. A man knelt in what looked like a marble foyer, his arms wrapped around two much smaller versions of the girls sitting before her. He was beautiful in the harsh way that winter is beautiful, all sharp angles and severe features, dark hair and eyes so pale blue they looked like ice. But it was his smile that caught Elena's breath in her throat, genuine and unguarded, and aimed entirely at his daughters like they were the center of his universe. "That's Papa. That was 2 years ago before." Nadia's voice trailed off, and Svetlana picked up the sentence the way twins do, finishing each other's thoughts like they shared one mind between two bodies. "Before Mama went to heaven. Papa doesn't smile like that anymore. Not really. He tries for us, but we can tell the difference. A real smile reaches your eyes. Papa taught us that when we were little, and he was teaching us to read people. He said in his business, you have to know when someone is lying." "What business is your papa in?" Elena asked, though something told her she already knew the answer, or at least knew she wouldn't like it. "Import and export," Nadia said with the practiced ease of a child who'd repeated this line many times. "Very boring grown-up stuff about shipping and logistics." "And protecting people," Svetlana added quietly, her fingers finally making contact with Elena's hand, small and warm and trusting in a way that made Elena's chest ache. "Papa says bad men hurt people who can't protect themselves, so he makes sure the bad men stop." The hot chocolate arrived, 3 enormous mugs with towers of whipped cream that the girls attacked with a single-minded focus of children everywhere. Nadia emerged with a whipped cream mustache that made her look even younger than 7, made Elena suddenly aware of how much responsibility these little girls carried, how much they'd already lost. "Your mama," Elena said gently. "Can you tell me about her?" Both girls went still, their spoons hovering over their mugs. Then Svetlana reached for the phone again, swiping through photos with careful reverence. A woman appeared on screen, dark-haired and ethereal, caught mid-leap in what was clearly a ballet performance. Even frozen in a photograph, she radiated grace. Mama was a dancer. The best in all of Chicago, Papa says. She could tell stories without words, just with her body. She said dancing was like flying, and when she danced, she was free. Nadia's voice had gone soft, younger. Bad men put a bomb in her car. It was supposed to be Papa's car, but Mama took it that morning because she wanted to surprise him at his office with blini. Those are special Russian pancakes. The bomb was meant for Papa because of his work, but Mama? 3 years, 2 months, and 18 days ago, Svetlana finished, and the precision of it broke Elena's heart clean in half. If you've ever lost someone, if you know what it's like to count the days since the world stopped making sense, pause right now and hit that like button. Let us know we're not alone in understanding that grief isn't something you get over. It's something you learn to carry. And stay with us, because this story is about to show you what happens when people are brave enough to try anyway. Yuri's phone buzzed, and he stepped away, his voice dropping to an urgent murmur. Elena watched his face change, watched him transition from gentle uncle figure to something else entirely, something dangerous and professional. When he returned to the table, his expression was tight. "Girls, we need to leave. Now." The change in his tone was instant and absolute. Both girls straightened, their playfulness evaporating as years of training kicked in. They didn't argue or ask questions. They simply stood, ready to move, and Elena saw it clearly for the first time. These were children who'd been taught to survive. Is Papa okay? Nadia's voice was steady, but her hand had found her sister's, their fingers intertwining.
Papa's fine.
But there's a situation that requires our immediate relocation. Yuri's hand had moved inside his jacket now, and Elena could see the outline of a weapon. Miss Hartley, I apologize for cutting this short. Perhaps another time. Can I come with you? The words were out of Elena's mouth before her brain caught up with them. 3 faces turned toward her with identical expressions of shock. Miss Hartley, I don't think you understand, Yuri began. I understand that something's wrong. I understand these girls came here tonight because they care about their father, because they're trying to help him find something he lost when he lost their mother. I understand that I've spent 2 years being careful and safe and alone, and tonight 2 7-year-olds were braver than I've been in all that time.
So yes.
I want to come. I want to meet him. Nadia's face split into a grin that reminded Elena painfully of that photograph, that real smile that reached the eyes. Svetlana squeezed her hand tighter. Yuri spoke rapidly into his radio in Russian, listened to the response, then looked at Elena with something that might have been respect. Boss says yes. But, Miss Hartley, you need to understand. Where we're going, what you're about to see. Mr. Volkov's world is not like yours. Once you step into it, you can't unsee it. Then I'll deal with that when it happens, Elena said, surprised by the steadiness in her own voice. Let's go. The SUV was black and armored, the interior luxurious in the way that expensive things trying to disguise their true purpose always are. Elena sat between the twins, their small bodies pressed against hers as they navigated Chicago streets that grew progressively more industrial, more isolated. Armed men in vehicles ahead and behind created a convoy that screamed danger to anyone paying attention. Don't be scared, Nadia whispered. Papa's men are good. Well, good for us. Maybe not so good for people who try to hurt us. Have people try to hurt you? Elena asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. Sometimes, Svetlana said simply. That's why we have Uncle Yuri and the others. That's why our house has the special rooms with the thick doors. That's why we practice the drills. Papa says prepared people stay alive. They pulled up to a massive warehouse near the waterfront, its exterior deliberately run down to discourage attention. But Elena could see the cameras, the men in tactical gear, the way this place was simultaneously abandoned and heavily fortified. Yuri came around to open their door, his eyes scanning constantly. Girls, wait for my signal. He spoke into his radio again, got confirmation, then nodded.
Clear.
But stay close. Inside, the warehouse split into 2 worlds. On one side, men huddled around computers and maps, weapons visible on every hip, conversations rapid and tense in multiple languages. On the other side, incongruously, someone had set up an elegant dining table complete with candles and fine china, an island of civilization in chaos. Then Elena saw him. Dimitri Volkov stood with his back to them, phone pressed to his ear, his voice carrying across the space in sharp Russian syllables that needed no translation to convey authority. He was taller than his photograph suggested, broader through the shoulders, and even from behind Elena could feel the power radiating off him like heat. His white dress shirt was rolled to his elbows, his suit jacket discarded somewhere, and when he turned slightly, she saw blood on his collar and bruised knuckles on the hand holding his phone. Papa. Both girls broke from Yuri simultaneously, and Elena watched Dimitri Volkov transform. The dangerous man issuing orders disappeared. In his place, a father dropped to his knees, phone forgotten, arms opening wide as 2 small bodies crashed into him with the force of coming home. He held them like they were oxygen, like they were the only thing keeping him tethered to earth, his face buried in their dark hair. Moya Solnishka, My little sons. His voice cracked, accent thickening. You should not be here. This is not safe, not appropriate. We brought her, Papa. Nadia pulled back, gesturing toward Elena. We brought Elena, the one with kind eyes. Dimitri's head came up, and Elena felt the impact of his gaze like a physical thing. His eyes were even paler in person, a blue so light it was almost colorless, and they moved over her face with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. He stood slowly, still holding his daughter's hands, and moved toward her with the kind of controlled grace that spoke of violence and restraint in equal measure. Miss Hartley. He stopped a careful distance away, and Elena noticed his men watching, protective and alert. This is not how I imagined our first meeting. This is... He gestured to the warehouse, the weapons, the barely controlled chaos. I apologize. My life is complicated, dangerous. You should go home. Forget this evening, forget. Papa, no. Svetlana's voice was sharp with panic. You promised Uncle Yuri you would try. You promised. Trying and exposing an innocent woman to my world are different things, Angel. But his eyes stayed on Elena, and she saw it clearly. The loneliness, the guilt, the desperate desire to protect everyone at the cost of his own happiness. What happened to your hand? Elena surprised herself by asking. Dimitri looked at his bruised knuckles like he'd forgotten they were there. I had to convince someone to leave my territory. The conversation became physical. Did they leave? Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or appreciation. They will not return. The moment stretched between them, understanding passing in the space where normal people would have found horror. Elena should be horrified, should be running. Instead, she felt something else entirely, something that recognized in this dangerous man the same thing she'd seen in his daughters, the weight of loss carried with dignity, the determination to protect what mattered at any cost. You must be hungry, Dimitri said finally.
Please.
I had food prepared. It is not a restaurant, but... They sat at the absurd, elegant table while armed men kept watch, and Chicago's underworld held its breath somewhere beyond the warehouse walls. Food appeared, Russian dishes Elena couldn't name but tasted like comfort and tradition. The twins chattered, filling silences with stories about school and ballet lessons, and the cat they'd convinced Papa to adopt last month even though he'd said no 17 times first. Elena watched Dimitri watch his daughters, saw how his severe features softened when they laughed, how his entire being oriented around them like planets around a sun. And she felt herself falling, which was insane because she didn't even know this man, because she'd walked into danger with her eyes open and her heart somehow even more open. Your wife, Elena said during a quiet moment when the girls were distracted by dessert. They told me about her. Dimitri's jaw tightened.
Katia.
She was... He paused, searching for English words that could capture something untranslatable. She was light.
Grace.
Everything good that I am not. She saw the man I could be instead of the man I am. And my world killed her for that vision. Do you blame yourself? Every day. His honesty was brutal. The bomb was meant for me. She died because she loved me, because she chose to be part of my life. I will not make that mistake again. If your heart just broke for this man carrying 3 years of guilt, if you believe that sometimes the people who need love most are the ones most afraid of it, show us by hitting that subscribe button. Because Elena's about to make a choice that will change everything, and you don't want to miss what happens next. So this, Elena said carefully, whatever this is between us, you're ending it before it starts? For your safety, yes. Don't I get a choice? Don't I get to decide what risks I take? Dimitri's eyes flashed. You don't understand what you're choosing. Then explain it to me. Elena felt anger rising, clean and clarifying. Stop deciding for me like I'm a child who can't handle complexity. I am telling you, I am dangerous. His voice rose, accent thickening. I have killed men with these hands. I will kill again. I control organization that operates outside law. Anyone close to me becomes target. Do you understand? Tonight could happen again, but next time bullets might not miss. The silence after his outburst was deafening. Even his men had turned to watch. Are you finished? Elena asked quietly. Dimitri looked stunned. Yes. Good. Now you listen to me. Elena stood, moved closer, watched his eyes track her movement. I spent 2 years building walls because someone safe hurt me. Someone normal. Someone who promised love and delivered betrayal. Those walls were killing me slowly, turning me into someone who photographs life instead of living it. Then tonight, 2 7-year-olds walked into a cafe and showed me what real courage looks like. They lost their mother to violence, live in a world I can barely comprehend, and they still have enough bravery to want their father to be happy. To risk hoping. If children can be that brave, what's my excuse? Elena. I'm not finished. Yes, you're dangerous. Yes, your world is violent. Yes, I'm terrified. But I'm more terrified of spending the rest of my life being safe and alone, wondering what if. So yes, Dimitri. I'm choosing this. Eyes open, heart pounding, but choosing. Small voices from the doorway shattered the moment. Papa? Both twins stood there in their coats, eyes wide, and Elena realized they'd heard everything. Svetlana was crying silently, tears tracking down her cheeks. Nadia's chin was up, defiant and desperate. Please don't make her go away, Svetlana whispered. Please, Papa. Dimitri moved to his daughters instantly, dropping to their level. My angels, you don't understand. We understand you're scared, Nadia interrupted. We're scared too. Every day we're scared something will happen to you. But Mama wouldn't want you to be alone forever. She wouldn't want us to stop living because living is scary. Mama would have liked Elena, Svetlana added, her small hand reaching toward Elena. She stayed when there was danger. She chose us even though she didn't have to. Mama always said the bravest people choose love even when it's hard. Dimitri's shoulders shook, and Elena watched this powerful, dangerous man crumble under the weight of his daughter's wisdom. He pulled them close, his face buried between them, and she heard him murmur in Russian, words that sounded like prayers or apologies or both. Elena moved without thinking, joining them on the floor, her arms wrapping around all three. They held each other in that warehouse surrounded by armed men and unfinished business, for people trying to figure out how to be brave enough for love. If you stay, Dimitri said finally, his voice muffled, there are rules. Security protocols. Your freedom will be limited. You will hate it sometimes. Then teach me the rules. My world will try to hurt you. Then protect me. I don't know if I can be what you need. Elena pulled back enough to see his face. Just be what they need.
Start there.
The rest we'll figure out. He looked at her for a long moment, those pale eyes searching hers for something, doubt, maybe, or fear that would give him an excuse to push her away. But Elena had spent 2 years being careful, and she was done. She'd taken a leap into darkness, and instead of falling, she'd found something worth the risk. Dimitri's hand came up, cupped her face with a gentleness that contradicted every violent thing about him. I will protect you with everything I am, but I cannot promise safety or a normal life. Can only promise that I will die before I let them harm you. That's not comforting, Elena managed. Not supposed to be. Supposed to be truth. Then here's my truth. I'm terrified, but I haven't felt this alive in years. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like Elena expected. Not gentle or tentative, but desperate and claiming. 3 years of loneliness meeting someone else's hope in the space between heartbeats. When they broke apart, both twins were grinning through their tears. The next 6 months unfolded like a dream that Elena kept expecting to end. Dimitri's world was exactly as complicated as he'd warned. Armed guards became part of her daily landscape. Security protocols dictated where she could go and when, and there were nights when he left with tight expressions and came home with new bruises he wouldn't explain. But there were also ballet recitals where she sat beside him and felt his hand find hers in the darkness. Sunday mornings making blini with the twins while they taught her Russian phrases and laughed at her pronunciation. Quiet evenings when Dimitri would pull her close and tell her stories about Katia without pain, healing through remembering instead of forgetting. Elena learned to read the danger signs, the way Yuri's hand would move toward his weapon, the shift in Dimitri's expression when a phone call brought bad news, the practiced calm of the twins when they moved to their safe room without argument. She learned that loving someone dangerous meant living with constant low-grade fear, with the knowledge that every goodbye might be the last one. But she also learned that love could exist in unexpected places. That dangerous men could be gentle fathers. That 7-year-olds could be wiser than adults. That sometimes the right choice was the terrifying one. 6 months after 2 little girls walked into a cafe to save their father's blind date, Dimitri took Elena to the rooftop of their home. The city spread below them, glittering and beautiful and oblivious to the kingdoms built in its shadows. He got down on one knee, with his daughters watching from the doorway they thought was hidden. Elena Hartley. 6 months ago, my daughters ambushed you because they saw something I was too broken to see, that life is not over until we decide it is. That love is worth the risk. That some people are strong enough to walk into darkness and bring their own light. He pulled out a ring, elegant and antique. This was Katia's. Before you say no, know that I spoke to her memory, and I think she would want this. Would want our girls to have mother who loves them fearlessly. You're asking the wrong question, Elena interrupted. Dimitri looked confused, and Elena's heart swelled with love for this complicated, dangerous, beautiful man. You should be asking if I'll be their mother. Wife comes second. Understanding dawned in his eyes. He started again, voice thick. Will you be mother to Nadia and Svetlana? Will you love them as your own? Will you join our family?
Yes.
To all of it. Giggling erupted from the doorway, and the twins burst onto the rooftop. She said yes, Papa. She said yes. The wedding was small and perfect, held in a private chapel with armed guards discreetly positioned and flowers everywhere because both twins insisted that Mama had loved flowers. The girls walked down the aisle carrying a photograph of Katia surrounded by blossoms, honoring her memory as they welcomed Elena into their family. When Dimitri promised to live and not just exist, when Elena promised to be brave enough for this love, there wasn't a dry eye in the chapel. At the reception, Elena danced with each girl separately, whispering promises that she would love them always, that choosing them was the easiest decision she'd ever made. She saw Dimitri watching them, his expression unguarded for once, and she understood something fundamental about love. It didn't erase the past, it built on it. Katia would always be part of their family, her memory woven into Sunday pancakes and ballet slippers and the fierce protective love these girls carried. Elena wasn't replacing her. She was honoring her by loving what she'd left behind. If you're still here, if this story touched something in you that needed touching, we need you to do something for us. Hit that like button right now. Not tomorrow. Not later.
Now.
Because every like tells YouTube to share this story with someone else who needs to hear it, someone who's given up on love, someone who thinks being alone is safer than being vulnerable. And if you believe in second chances, if you believe that family is made, not just born, if you believe that sometimes the scariest choice is the right one, subscribe to this channel. We share stories like this daily, stories about real love in complicated situations, about people who choose bravery over safety. Drop a comment telling us your own story of unexpected love, or just tell us you were here, that you felt this too. Because these stories only matter if they connect us, if they remind us we're not alone in our struggles and our hopes. That night, after the reception ended and the guests departed and the twins were finally asleep in their beds, Elena found Dimitri in his study. He stood before a photograph of Katia, his expression distant. "I was telling her thank you," he said without turning. "For the girls.
For teaching me to love.
For letting me love again." Elena moved beside him, her hand finding his. "She knows." Small voices interrupted them. "Mama."
Papa.
"We can't sleep." Both girls stood in the doorway in matching nightgowns, and Elena's heart caught on the word, Mama. They'd started calling her that 3 months ago, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence. It never stopped stunning her that these children had chosen her just as deliberately as she'd chosen them. "Come here, my loves," Elena said, and they climbed into Dimitri's lap as he settled into his chair, Elena perched on the arm. They stayed there together, for people who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances, building a family from broken pieces and brave choices. She thought she'd been stood up that night in the cafe. Thought another attempt at love had failed before beginning. She had no way of knowing that 2 7-year-olds with a mission and enormous courage would walk through that door and change everything. That the dangerous man they loved would become the person Elena trusted most in the world. That choosing risk over safety would lead not to disaster but to this, a family built on honesty and protection and the fierce determination to love despite knowing that love always requires bravery. The blind date was empty, but it led to the fullest life Elena had ever known. And sometimes, that's exactly how the best love stories begin. Not with perfection, but with 2 little girls saying, "My daddy's sorry, but he's worth waiting for." They were right.
He was.
They all were.